Raider Nation, how are you tonight? Welcome back to Silver and Black. Today, this is the post-game edition live, as we are live on YouTube and a bunch of other channels as well. We're certainly also an Odyssey Sports original podcast. If you don't already subscribe to the show, please do so. Don't forget to rate and review. We certainly appreciate that. And if you are watching us, thanks for joining us. The show brought to you by our good friends at BetUs. And a reminder, 150% sign-up bonus up to $2,000 using the promo code YouTube150. That's YouTube 150, the promo code. Go up there. Don't bet on the Raiders, but you can bet on somebody else. Anyway, we're here with my good friend Murf from Raiders Fan Radio. You can follow him on x.com @_ Murf, MURF. You can also follow the gang at Raiders Fan Radio by following their YouTube channel. Also subscribe to their podcast wherever you get your audio. Definitely worth your time and good stuff. And Murf joins me after the Raiders lose their 10th in a row. 15-9. That's the score. 15-9 to the Atlanta Falcons at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas in what was a awful game to watch. I got to be honest. It's, I can watch any football, but 15-9, it was like if the Raiders could have got a couple more runners to second base and a couple more singles, maybe they score a little more. But Raiders continue to struggle. Desmond Ridder struggled at quarterback. He came alive at the very end of the game. Wasn't really garbage time because the game was still within a score, but that's where we're at with it. And so the Raiders continue to struggle in every facet of the game. We'll get into the numbers. We'll get into some of the details. First, want to bring Murf in here. Murf, man, the voice of the fan tonight. It's actually probably not very difficult tonight, right? Because, I mean, it was just blah. It is what it is. At the same time, it was really hard to watch this game, especially when you didn't even see a wide receiver targeted till late in the game. But give us your thoughts, your initial reaction after watching the Raiders finally back on Monday Night Football, and them and the Falcons, to be fair, crap the bed both.
Yeah, this was some really bad football. These were two really bad football teams, and we were really badder than the other team. What an awful performance for the most part. Just as a display of the NFL, and like when you're watching the game, you hear the announcers like they're scraping for things, they're looking for things to root for. And while there were some great plays, it was just altogether sloppy by both football teams. I mean, the Raiders kicked it off by a false start on the first play of the game. You know what I mean? It's like, and we are the kings of ruining our own momentum. It's like the Raiders are better than any other team in the NFL and getting in their own way. I put out a tweet earlier tonight during the game, and I was like, this is 2006 bad. And for those of you that remember that team, the Art Shell 2.0 team, that's the level that we're at. Other than that team had a pretty good defense, and you could argue that the defense was good because the offense was so bad. So all they did was had to key in on a few things. But that said, that doesn't differentiate it very much from what this football team is today. Is that, you know, the Atlanta Falcons sat back and dictated to the Raiders exactly what they wanted them to do, and the Raiders couldn't overcome it. And you know, the Raiders are so deficient. Yes, we've had some injuries. But the Raiders are so deficient at so many positions. This roster is, I would say, Scott, is more depleted than we expected. Like not because of injury, but just because of talent. Like we run out of talent. Like where's the protection for our quarterback? And not that he played great tonight, but like where's the protection for our quarterback? We saw the defense flash, and we saw some decent pass rush early on in the game. And then where'd that go? And it's not like Kirk Cousins was even balling out there. He was awful.
Terrible.
Like Kirk Cousins is not good right now. So anyways, all that said, Scott, I think that the bottom line for me, and thank you for privileging me to be the voice of Raider fans. I don't think any of us came into this game expecting very much, and we weren't surprised nor let down, other than the idea that towards the end of the game, we're going like, oh wow, the Raiders have a chance to win this game. But do we want them to win? That's kind of where we all came at. And that's just keeping it real, as the kids say. Like, that's how we were kind of feeling like, oh man, I don't know if I want the Raiders to win a game like this. I mean, yeah. And that's what an awful place for our fandom to lie.
Yeah, that is tough. And I feel it. I said it actually right before the end of the game. I felt bad for the folks there because, the Raiders continue to have the most expensive tickets in the NFL, and Raider Nation is diehard, and they're there. Yes, there's Falcon fans. We're not going to get into that whole conversation. But nonetheless, a lot of people get out there and spend their hard-earned money to see it. And when you have to watch that, it's different if your team plays hard, it's a close game, comes down, whatever, that's fine. But the way the Raiders have been playing undisciplined football, 3 kicks blocked tonight, 2 punts, and an extra point. So when the special teams is falling down as well, that things just are really rough all the way around. And so it's hard. I get it, and it's really difficult, I think, to watch a game like that and to feel anything, any joy, right? Because look, I mean, yeah, Robert Spillane looked great. Of course, they called terrible, one of the worst
That was bad.
roughing the passer calls this year for sure. Maybe in the last 5 years that I've ever seen. There's been a couple really bad ones. This one was bad, and it really came at the worst time. Now, of course, the Raiders didn't lose the game because of that. The Raiders couldn't move the ball on offense early on most of the game and just looked terrible. Again, 4 of 14 on third down, and just didn't get any offense going. Desmond Ridder, I don't know about you, Murph. Tell me what you think. Listen, I never had any illusions that Desmond Ridder was going to be some kind of diamond in the rough for this team, but I thought he could be a capable guy to come in and at least keep the team moving a little bit. He did not do well. He looked scared most of the game. He was not accurate most of the game. And then the offensive side of the ball, they had the ball down near the goal line a couple times. Of course, they had the safety running this damn. And I was so glad to hear Louis Riddick, Murph, talk about this deal with having quarterbacks in the shotgun near the goal line. Why do you do it? Right. And they did it more than 4 or 5 times in this game. And so anybody who's like, oh, well, even if AP doesn't stay, I hope Scott no, let him go to North Carolina with Bill Belichick. Let that ship sail, hit the reset button, because, man, I'm telling you, again, injuries definitely on that defense changed that defense. No question about it. But this team is not disciplined. You could talk about playing hard, which is great. Yeah, they have not quit on their coach, and they talked about that on the broadcast. But look, you don't have the discipline. They get the ball with a chance to go down and tie the game, and they get three penalties, key penalties down the stretch there, including a delay of game. This is just not a well-organized or a well-disciplined football team.
Yeah, and am I in the minority where I think that we shouldn't applaud the team for not quitting? Like that to me, that seems to me, you know what I mean? And I hear a lot of folks talk about that. It was all over the broadcast tonight. We hear a lot of folks in media talk about that. Like, oh, well, they haven't quit under Antonio Pierce. And I know that we've seen other Raider teams of the past quit, but does that make it acceptable? Just because you're having a bad year means you're going to quit? I mean, this is their livelihood. These guys are putting down tape. You're only as good as your tape when it comes to the NFL. They're playing for their legacy, their career, the opportunity for another contract with the Raiders or another football team. So the idea that well, they're not quitting. Well, okay, fine. Neither do I. Neither do you, Scott. Neither do most of the people that listen to this show. Just because shit gets rough. I'm sorry. Just because stuff gets rough doesn't mean that you just can quit. That's unexpected. And I don't think that we should be applauding people and or players and or coaches for not doing the expected. What we applaud is exceeding expectations. And the expectations of this season were riding high off of a 5-4 finish, awarding Antonio Pierce the job and giving him full control, not personnel-wise, but in terms of on-the-field success, as we always refer back to, the resume on the grass. Well, that all goes back to one guy and to one staff. And so just because the players aren't quitting, I don't view that as a good thing. I look at that as and that's an expected thing. What I do look at is I look at the play on the field and the lapses. I love Jack Jones. I love the aggressiveness that he plays with on defense. But you can't get burned in a lapse of coverage, especially when you look at that series early on in the first half, Scott. What do we have? We had a fumble, we had a block punt, we had a blown coverage play. We had it was just thing after thing. It's the Raiders just, again, to go back to my original point, continually get in their own way. And I don't know where, and I'm kind of veering off here a little bit, but I don't know how you can watch this football team tonight being 2 and what are we now, 12? Being 2-12 and see this performance and go, and listen, man, I'll just say this. I championed Antonio Pierce.
Yes, you did.
Heavily this offseason. I still have the utmost respect for his dedication to the Raiders, his embodiment of the Raiders spirit. He's a cool freaking guy. I don't think he's a good head coach. And when I see a coach smiling and laughing on the sideline during an absolute ass whipping in your own crib by an underachieving Atlanta Falcons team, call me dramatic. Don't love it. Sorry. Don't dig it. It ain't fun and games at that point. It's not fun. We're not having fun sitting on our couches watching your candy ass and the rest of the players play. So if we're not having fun, you should be having fun either. Like, I'm glad you're having fun, and I'm not trying to tell you to, I mean, whatever. It's all frustration.
No, I get you, man. No, yeah, no, you got to get that out. That's why we have you on, so you could get that. Listen. I'm watching the chat. Everybody feels the same way, and giving you credit. I tell you, I would say too that's what I don't understand. I don't understand people defending this because listen, again, it's a very simple equation, and they brought it up on the broadcast too, a separate one, which I'll get to in a second. But that is, tell me something good that Antonio Pierce has done. Tell me somewhere where the Raiders are better. Now, injuries, absolutely. That's part of it. It's not all, this is an organizational failure, by the way. It's not just his failure. It's front office. They got the wrong quarterback. Yes. They did all sorts of stuff. Okay. And Antonio Pierce didn't hire himself. Mark Davis did. So there's plenty of blame to go around the organization. But when you don't see any part of the football team get better, you got to go back to coaching, because even players who are backups, if they execute, they might get beat. That's fine. But when you're not tackling, when you're blowing coverages, when you have veterans blowing all that stuff happening, that points back to discipline, organization, and the coach. So all of those things together, how any of you can defend Antonio Pierce out there is beyond me. I think it goes back to what you're talking about, Murf, which is, how are you going to defend mediocrity or just doing what you're supposed to? That's not what it's about. If you hold yourself to the high standard of excellence that the Raider organization has said over the years that it's dedicated to, it's just not there. I'm sorry. And on the broadcast, they talked about it. Dan Orlovsky, who I don't always like his takes, but he said, here's the question. Again, and you and I have talked about this on our show. You've talked about it on your show. Mo and I have talked about it on the show. And that is that when you look at Antonio Pierce, the only question that matters, do you trust him if you're going to go draft a young quarterback to develop that roster and develop that team? And if anybody gets to that point, then I think really you're fooling yourself or you're hitting the pipe too much.
Did I lose you, Scott?
No, you're there. You got me?
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I can't imagine a world where you could look at this coaching regime and you could look at it and say, and you're going to trust them with a high round draft pick. I agree with you. And I think that the idea of it's time for, and I feel like a broken record, y'all. And I'm sorry for those of you that tune into this, post-game show and hear me say the same things. But it's like, once like an idea gets set, like once you kind of know who you are, I think it's important for us to lean into it and to not shy away from it. And the Raiders have a challenge when it comes to the coaching staff. And would you trust them with a high round draft pick to lead this team? They said it numerous times tonight during the broadcast. The Raiders are going to go as the quarterback goes. They have to have a quarterback. We have to have one. This whole idea of like taking the best player available and, we'll figure something out later. Like, no, you have to, and don't let the trauma of the past inform your future. Yes, this whole idea, like people are like, oh, we don't want to take a quarterback because Jamarcus. Like, stop with that. That was freaking 20 years ago now. 17. Yeah. How long ago was it?
Was it 17 years ago?
17 years ago. There you go. So like that whole idea, like don't let that, not making light of the term, but don't have PTSD around drafting a quarterback. You have to have a quarterback. Listen, I'm the first one to say this isn't the best quarterback draft. The quarterback draft was last year. But the idea that there are still options for the Raiders, we're the number one pick again, right? Because we just beat out the Giants. So we're going to be up there to make a move at quarterback. You have to try. I say all the time, scared money don't make money. Risk it, no biscuit. And people are like, oh, you have to be responsible. Screw being responsible. You have to take a shot. If you don't, you can't become great unless you, as Jerry Cantrell famously said in frickin' Jerry Maguire, that's how you become great, man. You hang your balls out there. You gotta do it. The Raiders have to hang it out there and got to take a shot at one of these top quarterbacks coming out, and likely it's going to be Shedeur Sanders. And that gives, at the minimum, Scott, I'll say this and then shut up. At a minimum, it gives us hope. It gives us something to look forward to. I would ask you honestly, Raider Nation, did you look forward to this game tonight? Did you look forward to watching what the Raiders were going to be on Monday Night Football for the entire world to watch? Were you looking forward to that? I will own my feelings here. There we go. Raider therapy, as they say that this is sometimes. I didn't. I didn't look forward to it. And I look forward to seeing the silver and black on my screen. And I love the images of Vegas. And I love the images of Allegiant Stadium. And I love seeing the big shield in the middle of the screen. I love all that stuff. But I was not looking forward to seeing what the Raiders were going to put on the grass today, what their resume was going to be on that grass today. And unfortunately, they continued to let me and the rest of you down.
Yeah, and I just, to your point about scared money doesn't make money, you just got to go with a quarterback. You can't. There's no sure thing ever at any position, right? And it doesn't make any sense not to do it. I see some people in the chat talking about Sam Darnold. You don't go get a veteran quarterback and pay him $125 million when you have to rebuild a team. And by the way, do you think Sam Darnold's going to want to play for the Raiders? I think not. I don't think so. I don't think so. He's going to want to go somewhere where he can win right away. And so I just don't see that. I think you have to go get the young quarterback. We had Baldy on the show the last 2 times over the last 6 months. Got to get the quarterback. It's the same thing. And so if you're in this idea that they should best player available, well, look what they did with Brock Bowers. They went with Brock Bowers. Worked out great, okay? But that was because they couldn't get a quarterback. If they're 1 or 2 this year, and there's only 2 quarterbacks to take, I agree with that perspective. Then if you're 1 or 2, you take one of those guys, whichever one you like better. I like Sanders better. Some people like Cam Ward better. I think they're both fine either way. But clearly, this team has done it. And then you got to think about coaching staff. And I think the Raiders really are in for a massive overhaul this offseason with Tom Brady being involved. And I don't know if Tom Brady's going to be good at it. That's the other thing. We don't know, right? Tom Brady is a great quarterback. Doesn't mean, and as somebody brought up John Elway in Denver, John Elway was a GM, a little bit different there, a GM and president. So I don't know. But I just know that Mark Davis has to look, and I think he knows because he's kind of said it publicly before. He doesn't know football. He doesn't know it well enough, even though he grew up in it, to be the guy who's going to really pick players and do all that kind of stuff. He's not Jerry Jones. Not that Jerry Jones can do it either. But nonetheless, I think you have to think that this organization, it's been crap for too long. It has to change. You can't keep doing the same things and expect different results. So to me, that's what the Raiders, and I think this season, you've seen that, which is, look, you can like Antonio Pierce, not a good coach, just not. And if you want to argue with me that he is, you're full of it and you're fooling yourself. I'm sorry. I'm not always right. I'm wrong all the time. Right, Murf? But I will tell you that what has to happen, you got to look at and say, in that division, with that quarterback and that coach, are they going to compete with Peyton? Are they going to compete with Andy Reid? Are they going to compete with Jim Harbaugh? The answer is no.
As of today, the entire division, except for the Las Vegas Raiders, are in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Let that sink on your Raider Nation. And for anyone that wants to defend what this is and what this season has been, coaching staff, players, or otherwise, the entire division is in the playoffs except us. That is the ultimate, well, there's a lot of ultimate indictments, but that's clearly evident of a failure from the top down. And I don't mean from the business side of the Raiders, because the business side of the Raiders is good. You look at Mark Davis, Andrew Douglas Morgan, et cetera. Everything is good. Tom Telesco, I think gets a pass because it's 1 year in, and the main thing that he was responsible for in the offseason was this draft, and he hit a home run. Like, we all look forward to watching JPJ, and we love, obviously, Brock Bowers and DJ Glaze, and we see some really good play out of this young draft class. After that, it's all freaking, it's been crap. It's been all bad from there. So I think that you hit the hard reset button. We take a shot at the quarterback. We reset it. And you mentioned about Tom Brady. You know, there was when the Niners hired freaking George Lynch to be their GM, everybody was like, oh my gosh, this guy's a former safety. What's he going to do? Well, look what he's done. He's hit nothing but home runs. There's plenty of opportunities. Ozzie Newsome was one of those guys for the Baltimore Ravens. It's like, just because you're unproven doesn't mean that it's not possible. Now, I understand the trepidation, but what else do you want? Like, why not? Like what else do you have to lose? And that's what and I'm not going to bring up Carter Bradley, or maybe I will. But
We'll get hold that.
well, what else do you have to lose, Scott? Why not entrust football operations to Tom Brady? Why not take a shot at a quarterback in the high round?
Yeah.
Why not make an aggressive move in the draft, or even in free agency with all the cap space we have to acquire high-profile free agents? Why not? What's the worst thing that can happen? We're going to lose more?
Well,
you only got to take 2 more than we do.
Yeah, and people get. I mean, I saw BT was in the chat, and he was saying, "Tank 2 years in a row, take Hunter this year, and Arch next year." Two things, BT. I love Travis Hunter. He's a cornerback. He's going to play wide receiver a little bit, but he's going to be a defensive back in the NFL. Out of the last 20 years, 25 years, out of all the defensive backs taken in the top 5 of the draft, how many of them were great? One of them was a Raider. That's the only one. So you're going to tell me you're going to take a guy at 1 or 2 as a cornerback when you don't have a quarterback? Come on. As much as I love Travis Hunter, I get what you're saying there. I like your creativity, but man, that's just crazy. You got to get the quarterback. Okay. One quick break here, just to let you guys know, of course, as you know, we are an Odyssey Sports Original podcast, but we also are brought to you on video by our good friends at BetUs. Here's a little word about how you can make some money. That's right. You can get 150% sign-up bonus from our friends at BetUs, up to $2,000. Just use the promo code YouTube150. That's YouTube150. Again, BetUs. Go there. Check out their app. Check out their mobile app. Mo and I both bet our football here. They've been a proud supporter of Silver and Black this season. We appreciate that. So go use that promo code YouTube150. That's BetUs. Get that sign-up bonus today. All right, we are back. Scott Branson, Murf from Raiders Fan Radio. This is Silver and Black Today, the post-game edition. Raiders lose another one, 10th in a row. And you're wondering, Murf, right? You talked about the 06-07 season, right? 05-06 too as well. Both really terrible seasons for the Raiders. But this ranks 5th as far as losing streaks go in Raider history now at 10 games. Those 2 years you were talking about, that they got to 11 games. On losing streaks those 2 years. So if you want to put it in a context for especially you younger fans, you probably remember those seasons, but maybe not some that Murf and I would remember. So there you go. The other thing, Murf, you know the song, the great Earth, Wind and Fire, the song September?
Yeah.
Right? September 21st, was the 21st day of September, right? I'm not going to sing it because I can't sing. Well, the Raiders have not won since September 29th.
Oh.
Yes. So 78 days since the Raiders have won. Good news, though. I want to give you some good news. We try to pepper in the good news, right, my man? And that is the Raiders' offensive drive drought of not scoring a touchdown ended at 32. They had 32 straight drives without a touchdown before they got that one. So there you go. So you had that going for you. You got to find some positives there as well. And of course, again, I talked about Spillane earlier, but the quarterback situation, look, Desmond Ridder, it was an emergency pickup after the injury to Gardner Minshew. People were criticizing Tom Telesco tonight for picking him up. He was just off the scrap heap to have a body. That's it. So that's where I want to bring up your point, because the Raiders with 3 games left now. There's not really much to see. There's some development. They're playing a lot of rookies on the defensive side of the ball. They're playing some on the offensive line, obviously, which had a rough night again tonight. But to your point about Carter Bradley, somebody asked you, and I want you to walk through this and talk this, because they said, well, so what if he gets in there and he's terrible? So talk about that, because I'm with you. Start Carter Bradley. See if he could do anything. If he can't do anything, fine. Then you move on, whatever. But why not do it? Walk everybody through your thought process there, because you had a great answer to that challenge you had online where people said, well, what if he's terrible?
Well, then we know. Like that's it. Like it's pretty simple. It's like then we know what we have, and you never know when you're going to have a diamond in the rough. This is an undrafted free agent out of freaking South Alabama. It's Gus Bradley's kid, so he's the coach's son. So we know he's got a great football IQ. He's been in camp. He's been in the freaking meeting rooms and been on the team all year long. Why not give him a shot? And how many times have we seen these group of 5 guys, these guys come from smaller schools, come out and ball out in the NFL? And I'm not telling you he's going to ball out, Don't hear what I'm not saying. But you think the 49ers knew what they had in Brock Purdy until they started Brock Purdy because of an injury forced their hand? And that's what I'm saying, is that like same thing you could say for Tom Brady, even though he didn't come out of a group of five school. But anyways, the point being though is that you get pleasantly surprised a lot in the NFL by players breaking out. Sincere McCormick, anybody? And that whole idea that like, well, the coaching staff is looking at Carter Bradley every day in practice, and if they don't have faith in him, then I don't have faith in him. Well, they didn't have faith in Sincere McCormick either, and all of a sudden he turned into our best running back. What I'm saying is that, are you going to trust this coaching staff and their evaluative skills? Because that right now I would think they are questionable at best. And so why not? And at the end of the day, it's worth a shot, because, and especially those of you that are out there that like, if you got to develop young talent in this league, we all also know the importance of rookie contracts and the competitive balance or imbalance they can provide by having somebody that's serviceable under a rookie contract, especially at the quarterback position. So if you have a guy like Aiden O'Connell, who is all points leading towards he is going to be a highly serviceable backup in the NFL, then you know that now, at least at this point. I'm not saying he can't become the next Sam Darnold, but we as Raider Nation are always looking for the next Jim Plunkett or the next Rich Gannon. Those days are few and far between in the way the NFL is constructed nowadays. Nowadays, you got to develop young talent, and when you can develop and take advantage of a young quarterback, it is huge. It's like having pocket aces, man. And so if the Raiders can, I'm not saying that Carter Bradley's pocket aces. What I am saying is that it's worth a shot at this point in the season, considering that you've got nothing left to play for. Like, jobs are already on the line. That's done. The tape is laid down. You think Mark Davis is going to watch the last handful of these games and make a change in his decision making? Think that the Raiders run off 4 straight? He's going to be like, oh no, maybe we'll keep these guys around. No, that ain't going to happen. His mind's made up tonight. But anyways, point being though, I think it's worth an opportunity to bring in Carter Bradley, at least see what he's got, let him demonstrate his skills, and find out what you've got for the future of this Raider team that's struggling to find talent.
Struggling to find talent and struggling to, I think, just be organized. Remember, we had the players earlier in the year complaining in the locker room about a lack of direction and organization. And that's on the coaching staff and the Raider organization, the front office, because why wasn't that happening? I had some people in the chat talking about firing Tom Telesco. I don't know how you fire Tom Telesco. I mean,
No.
he had he's got 3 rookies that he drafted this year who are starting and doing very well overall. So look, I think I wouldn't let him hire the head coach. I'll put it that way, because he had a terrible record with the Chargers doing that. But otherwise, you have to be able to do that. I just think though that playing hard for a guy is not enough to keep his job, or to say that, hey, you know what, this is the guy who's going to lead us back to the promised land. And for all the people who talk about stability, you're absolutely correct. The Raider organization's been a mess. But when you have a wrong choice and it clearly is not working, it's not fair to either side to do that. So you bring a guy back and then fire him after 5 games next year, something like that. It doesn't make any sense. You might as well, when you make a mistake, you do something, just get over it and get on with it. They got a lot of work to do to shore up this team to get it to the point where it's gone. When you look at, and they talked about it on the broadcast tonight too, they have got to get more weapons on offense. You have Jacoby Myers. I hope they bring him back. I think he's a great number 2 there. And then you find a wide receiver in the draft later on, or you see who's available. But I think they have some of that core there. They got to improve that offensive line. But again, people talk about the offensive line being bad. I don't think they're that bad, but you don't know. This goes back to coaching too. If you don't think coaching matters, offensive line coaching, and they had a switch there, they had a new offensive coordinator. So it's been a mess there. I think this line's better than they've looked. They've shown it at times. Can it get better? Absolutely. You can always get better. But to me, that's the key. And I like your point about Carter Bradley, only because you got to go deep on that roster, see who's worth keeping. Because I think they're going to blow out a lot of people, Murph. I really do, because you need to hold yourself to a higher standard. I think Mark Davis is going to let Tom Brady do that. How he does it, I don't know. We'll figure out the details later. But to me, if you want this franchise to turn around finally, you've got to hold a really high standard. And if you're not good enough, you're just not good enough.
I agree. And this is the roster that Tom Telesco inherited. We got to remember that, Raider Nation. This isn't the one that he built. He inherited most of these players that are on this football team. And I would also submit to you this is that he is now in year 2. So you think that Tom Telesco as a GM would survive another 2-win season after a full roster rebuild? Probably not. So I think Tom Telesco is highly aware of how much he has riding on this offseason, and he's going to get it right. I don't fall into the narrative of that, well, he didn't get us a quarterback, so he should be gone. I think that the Raiders were in a bad spot, and I'm going to trust that he and the Raiders did everything that they possibly could to secure their quarterback for the future, and it didn't play out. No. Now, if that happens 2 years in a row, is there an excuse for that? I don't believe so. But so he knows, and I've said this quote a million times, and here's where I ultimately come out on it, is when you look at Brandon Beane, the GM of the Buffalo Bills, when it came time to draft Josh Allen, he made an aggressive move, traded a couple of picks in order to move up to 7 or whatever it was to get Josh Allen. And people were highly critical of him drafting this quarterback out of Wyoming. And he said, you know what? If it doesn't work out, neither one of us are going to be here anyway. And if it does work out, no one's going to give a shit. That's the level that and those were his words. That's where we're at, I believe, with Tom Telesco coming into this offseason, is that he's going to be aggressive, and if it works out, none of you care. You don't care what do you care about draft capital? No, what is that? What do we get?
They put too much stock in it. They put too much stock in it because that's all potential too. You don't know. So you trade 2 number 2s and a number 1 from a future year. You don't know what that's going to end up being. So you can go both ways with the argument. But I agree. Listen, I've been saying it for weeks now that they have to do, and I'm not even going to argue with people anymore, because if you don't see that the NFL is a quarterback-driven league, if you're not watching Josh Allen, if you're not watching Jalen Hurts, if you're not watching Lamar Jackson and the teams that are doing it, I mean, you even watch the freaking Bengals have a great quarterback who would be an MVP candidate if he was on a winning team. They don't have defense or anything, so it goes to show you got to have complementary football, no doubt. So you can come at me with the defensive stuff, and I'll agree with you. But without a quarterback, the Raiders can't score points. You can't score points in the NFL. Even if you have a great defense, it's not going to work out. So to me, you have to do everything. If the Raiders don't go get one of these 2 guys this year, it's going to have to be under some just amazingly crazy circumstances. I mean, that's I don't see any way out of not trying to do it and making sure it happens, Murf.
Yeah, there's no scenario where it makes sense. Like, I don't care if you like Ashton Genty, you love Travis Hunter, it doesn't make any sense to me. Even if they were to pull one of those skill position players and then later on the draft get a Dylan Gabriel or, Jalen Milroe or whatever, you know what I mean? Like I know other, Aller has now said that he's coming back to Penn State, so he's off the table there. But I mean, I still don't there is not a Derek Carr in this draft. And I give Derek Carr a lot of shit, but that was a great pick by Reggie McKenzie, pulling Derek Carr at the top of the 2nd round in the 2014 draft. These guys aren't Derek Carr. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about it falls off a cliff after the first 2 quarterbacks. And I would even argue that it falls off even a small cliff after Shedeur Sanders, because I look at Cam Ward and I watch a Miami game, and there's a lot of throws that young man makes. Granted, he can create space, but so can Desmond Ridder. But then he can't complete a pass downfield, or the passes that he does complete, it's because, Restrepo goes and makes a crazy ass catch or whatever. I see late throws over the middle and things in the NFL. Those are picks, and I'm not saying that that's going to be his legacy necessarily at the next round. But I think in terms of NFL ready, day one kind of guy, it's Shedeur Sanders. And then that's it, Scott.
Yeah, no. And we got a chat here from Tyrone, I think, coming in on yours, making it racial.
Oh, stop with that.
Dude,
come on.
Dude, seriously. I mean, I'm so tired of this shit. AP's a bad coach. I don't give a fuck if he's purple. Excuse my language. If he's green, it doesn't matter. Are you not watching? Are you maybe rooting for him just because he's black? I don't know. It's ridiculous. As Tyrone, no offense, man, but don't bring that shit here. I'm tired of that. Look, he's resume on the grass, 2-11.
The end. Sorry. We felt the same way about Mike.
I hate when people do.
We felt the same way about Art Shell. We felt the same way about Josh McDaniels. We felt the same way about we've had a history of terrible coaches. Sorry, it's just the truth. We've had some great ones, but we've also had a history of some bad ones, and we've all held them to the same standard. Good friend of our show, and I know a good friend of yours as well. The Violator, Wayne Mabry, said, "You never lower the standard for that shield. Never. You don't lower the standard for that shield. We're not going to lower it for anybody, regardless of your race, creed, color, whatever. That doesn't matter." The NFL is the ultimate meritocracy. How many numbers do you put in the left column versus how many numbers do you put in the right column? The end. That's all anybody ever cares about. And I would also say to you this, that the Raiders, at a minimum, if you're listening to a Raiders show and you understand the Raiders spirit and the what Al Davis led by example in terms of embracing everybody based on their contribution to the silver and black and the shield, then you know that is not the case. And and I don't want to dismiss it, but to me, it feels like a silly notion. Like, it's not that, it's a path of least resistance. We're not going to go there with that. You know what I mean?
No. And it's look, again, you want to fall in love with the personality and whatever it is that you like about Antonio Pierce, because there's a lot to like there. You talked about it earlier, Murph. He's a cool guy. Like, I'd love to sit down and have a beer with the guy. I mean, I would love it. He's a cool guy, but it has no bearing. It has to do with the results. And the fact is that it doesn't matter where you're at. If you can't, or where you come from, whatever, if you can't do it, you can't do it, man. Oh, well, he doesn't have this. It's funny how there's excuses for some people and not excuses for others. And when people claim that, well, they say you made excuses for the other guy. Well, no, it's not true, because Josh McDaniels got his guys and he still sucked. Okay. He got Jimmy Garoppolo. That's how good he was. That's the guy he got. So I'll tell you, I just think that it's just ridiculous. But anyway, that's enough of that. So you had to drop some F-bombs. What the heck are you going to do?
That was good. I mean, fired up.
Well, because you know what? It's just dumb. It's like, dude, you're either coach well or you don't coach well. I'm not even going off record. I'm going off what I see. Do you not see it? I mean, and I know people from every walk of life who see the same thing I do. So it's clearly not because I'm a white guy.
Amen.
Just saying. But anyway, all right. So, Murph, as we always do every show, is one of the things that Murph and his team do over at Raider Fan Radio is they have a great nonprofit called the One Nation Foundation, and they do work for Raiders charities. And it's very important. All our super chats, all the money goes there. And on their show too. Make sure you watch their show live on Wednesday nights, by the way. And everything goes there. And Murph, I want you to tell everybody about the foundation, what you do, because it's very special. And in a year like this, where there hasn't been much to look forward to on the field, Raider Nation still gathers around each other. They support each other like a true family. So tell everybody about the One Nation Foundation, what you guys do and how they can contribute.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Scott. So we started a nonprofit that is attached to our podcast that gives money to Raiders-related charities. And so 100% of the money that we make with Raiders Fan Radio, we give it away. And so we would just ask for your endorsement of our show. Just hit a like, hit a subscribe, hit a thumbs up, subscribe, all that good stuff, man, because anytime that we can generate advertising revenue, we give it away to Raiders-related charities through the foundation. So that One Nation Foundation was formed back in 2019, and we've had the blessing of being a vessel for Raider Nation. It is not us; it is your generosity. It is direct donations, it's merchandise sales, it's advertising, as I mentioned, all those things. We take all that money and we give it away. And so one of the foundations we give to is the Biletnikoff Foundation, who are taking young women at risk of domestic violence and substance abuse, and not only providing them safe places and rehabilitative services, but also providing them counseling services now. They've got numerous locations in Central California, also in Southern Nevada, and just had the conversation with Angela Biletnikoff this last week, and we were talking about our 2025 plans, and we've got a lot of exciting things coming up. And so, again, it's not about growing Raiders Fan Radio or necessarily even endorsing our show. We just ask for your support so we can grow for the foundation, because it's all about doing for others. And despite in a season like this, when it's been a struggle, man, it's been rough watching this Raiders football team this year, but At the end of the day, Raider Nation is undefeated. When we say La Familia, that is no joke, man. We are here for each other, and we are here to uplift our communities. That's what Raider fans do better than, I would say, any other fandom in all of sports. And so we can't do that without your assistance. So yeah, check us out. Support it any way you can, even if you can't support us monetarily. Again, hit a like, hit a subscribe here at Silver and Black today, over at Raiders Fan Radio. We love you guys so very much, and thank you, Scott, for the platform.
Oh, of course, always. And by the way, another charity support you mentioned, Raider Dad, which if you saw the pictures tonight, Josh Camine, who does an amazing job, has put that thing together. And I know you guys have helped them. Amazing work there too, along with the Blitnikoff Foundation and I mean, domestic violence, all of that stuff. Huge things. And so that you can feel good about because Raider Nation does give whatever way you can, like you said, Murph, even if it's just liking the videos, watching the videos, partaking in the chat, having fun there. If you could donate, I've seen people donate $1. Nothing wrong with that, man. Everything is good. So check out onenationfoundation.net and do that as well. Well, Murph, I was going to put an end to this now because I think, man, I want people to be able to go to work tomorrow if they got to go to work and kind of turn the page, start to think about Carter Bradley a lot, right? So it'll be Carter Bradley week. Carter Bradley week again on Raider Fan Radio, right? And then we'll talk about it too as well here on the show with Mo. But certainly, hey, listen, Raider fans, you know how the season is gone. So tonight, I think for some people it wasn't so much a shock to the system because of how things have gone this year. And it's a holiday season, so hopefully you're feeling a little bit of holiday joy. I know the football's not going to bring you that, but I hope your family, friends, neighbors, whoever you love and spend time with are able to do that. So all good. Murph, man, thank you, brother, as always, and we will talk to you next time.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me, Scott. Raider Nation, man. Like Scott there said, it's a beautiful time of year, man. It's an amazing time of year. Even though the football may be bad, but the gatherings of family, the gatherings of friends, and celebrating, loving one another, and things that are bigger than ourselves. I think it's an incredible time of year, and we may not be screaming Raiders as loud as we normally do, but we could say Merry Christmas. I don't know. I'm reaching now, Scott. Sorry.
You're wearing the hat though, so hey, you're there. You got the tree behind you. If you're watching us, Murph's got the whole Christmas motif behind him. We might have to start playing Christmas music on here. But anyway, Murph, thanks, my friend. Talk to you next time, buddy.
Bah humbug to this coaching staff.
All right, there you go. This has been Silver and Black today, guys. Thanks for being with us. I know it's tough. Again, Raiders lose 15-9 to the Falcons at home on Monday Night Football. This special Monday night edition of the show, or if you're listening to us on Tuesday, then we will be back on Thursday. Mo and I will be back on Thursday with a full show and a guest. We're going to get into some more quarterbacks. Well, there's one other quarterback, Cam Ward. We're going to talk to somebody about Cam Ward. We also got to talk about this coaching staff and what's going on there, some possibilities. If you've been watching Liam Cohen, which is, of course, Mo's guy from Tampa Bay, is doing pretty good down there. So maybe a candidate to watch there. But anyway, Raider Nation, thank you again for spending so much time with us. We certainly appreciate it. And we will talk to you on Thursday again. For our producer, Mike Robier over at Odyssey, for Murph and Raiders Fan Radio, I'm Scott Branson. This has been Silver and Black Today, an Odyssey Sports original podcast video brought to you by our good friends at BetUs. Take care, everybody.